Okay, so chapter 3 now. This is all of the NG plus 4 base game bosses that I have previously beaten, but I just wanted to fight again to get back in the swing of things. So this one I was actually talking live during, so I won't narrate over this.
Are you still on the same boss?
Of course.
Pardon?
I said of course.
I didn't know of course. Why of course?
Well, I mean, not narrate too much. So
Okay, well, deny those allegations.
I've skipped over like several parts where I'm just running around because nobody just wants to see that, really, do they? Boss didn't really get that interesting until he went into his second
That is
phase.
something that happens a lot. For me. For you. I don't know how often you do
I got very frustrated with the spears. I didn't seem to be able to like ever dodge them well. And the arrow attack is of course always a death sentence if you don't like give it ample room. Went two-handed as well for this. Proper magic defense on the armor.
What an insult! You already told him! Oh, Billy!
What?
Why do you sound so angry?
I am angry.
Okay, I'll just wait.
Oh my god, he's doing it again. Good job. It is stupid how easy this boss is if you just manage all of the crap by running around in a certain way. It is just managing running away from these arrows. And those fucking spears. He's fucked it. I've done it. He fucked it. Okay, so none of the footage now has any more live commentary, so I'm back to narrating as normal. I think I did this in 2 attempts. I came back into the dancer. Dancer's a weird boss. Like, obviously, if you take this fight too early, like if you just run in here and attack the woman in the chair, like this is a nightmarish boss. Like taking it that early in the game is always going to be like really tough. But once you're in NG plus, you're always prepared for it, and it's not like. It's definitely not an endgame boss, and it's definitely not an early game boss, so you're thinking, you know, it's right there in the middle, but I feel like you could get caught by all of the like blades spinning and it could be horrible, like if you're in a really bad position, but half the time I think she just spins and she just misses, like look at all that. That could have been really bad for me, but I didn't, like, sometimes you just don't get hit. Like, this is a boss that I think if you roll too much, you'll get more punished than if you if you just stick to a side and just walk around the back, honestly. It's just a classic, if you panic you'll be punished boss. Very close there, very close to death. Environment nearly fucking me over. Still very much at the newbie side of things again. Pretty much at any time where I'm wearing like full Lortric armor, you can tell that I'm still very green. Obviously, same as the previous videos. The earlier the video it is, the earlier it is in the timeline. But obviously I've split all of the videos categorically, so one PvP, one PvE non-bosses, this is the base game bosses, so you'll know this is still going to be quite early in the journey. I think this is where I started to like really earn my wings. So now I'm trying something new again. On for the two-hander, trying to get this decent amount of like lightning resistance going. I actually had to do a lot of retries for this fight. I tried it with the with the lightning shield and the sword, but the trouble was I couldn't finish the boss off quick enough. And this fight isn't actually, it's not him that's the problem. Like fighting him is just fine. Like you can really box him quite easily, quite a few different ways. Like with the sword and shield is just fine if it's just him, but it's not just him. You're fighting against the clock, because once those other butterflies like start getting involved and like just plastering the ground with shit, you really struggle to do the amount of damage to just finish the fight while you're trying to watch your sides from that AoE. And that's where it all falls down. You need to be able to like just end the fight quickly, and a great sword is the way to just like do the chunk damage you need to end it fast. And it's moments like this fight where I realised that I could happily have played like all of the game two-handed, because it is a very like it's a very satisfying win to play without a shield, like doing it almost the Bloodborne way, but I'm just not that reliable in that style. And one of the biggest problems I think I have going through any Souls game, I love to be prepared for both PvE and PvP at all times, so that if I get invaded, or you know, for whatever reason I'm in like a more of a PvP encounter, like when there's NPC invasions or NPC type mobs, I just think it's better to be better prepared for everything. And for me, PvP has always just been like, it's always been fought in Souls at least, with a great shield and either a long sword or a broadsword, just something, any kind of straight sword really. But yeah, like I've tried it like a few different ways, but that has just always been what's most reliable for me. And I've beat like nearly every boss like that. And going like, I went and reviewed a lot of my old footage from when I beat these bosses the first time. Obviously I used a lot of my my old footage for some of these bosses as like a guide for how I did it the first time, so I had some idea of strategy going in again. But there is pros and cons of playing the way that I did the first time. Like I found a lot of the bosses I first encountered in Dark Souls 3, like Pontiff, I found really easy. Like playing with a shield is just really effective against some bosses, and other bosses it's terrible. Like some of these bosses, like I say, you want to be using a two-hander because you want to be doing the, like, have the potential to stagger or get the damage in, and I really suffered by not having that damage. Even though like DPS is good with a straight sword, if you just R1 spamming, if you've got a big enough stamina bar, you don't necessarily have the stagger or the burst. And yeah, Dragon Slayer armor gave me a lot of trouble, but this guy, well, these guys should I say, this was a real challenge. Again, you can see I've changed the armor up. So this armor combination is like really great against like slash damage, really great against fire. And this was just such a nightmare. So many retries. I must have done like 30 retries or something. And it was at this point I thought to myself, if this is this hard, how hard is the DLC going to be? Like, I don't remember this being this hard like the first time. But I noticed like one of the biggest problems is my reaction times are not even as good as they were like when I did this the first time. I've gotten old. But yeah, I've heard some people like mention about like how it's the camera angle changing when the teleports, but to be honest, that's not the issue. I don't think it's like these strikes are really telegraphed really easy, but sometimes when he teleports, one of the teleportation moves, he's like above you and he's slamming down, and it's very difficult to figure out which direction you're supposed to roll to avoid that damage, because obviously the camera doesn't follow him when he's like above you. I got quite lucky with this attempt, I think, because there wasn't as many of those attacks. I'm not sure if he just doesn't do that move when he's got the younger prince on him. So if you could just get through the first phase, you're okay. At this point I backed off there because I realised I wouldn't have enough time to do any DPS. Usually I take the trade and try and do as much DPS and just get hit by the like Wrath of the Gods attack. But there was really like no benefit to me going in there, so I just stayed out. Trying to take like a real quality trade is tough, because you know you've then took like enough damage so that you're vulnerable. I got lucky there though. The teleport back meant that like my heal was free. Really getting the feel for dodging that one shot. It's always like a 90-degree roll to the left or right. Thought I'd take a couple of safe zappies, but couldn't rely on that too much. I often find I do find it's like I suffer on these bosses where I have to roll, because my roll time in it, while has been decent on a lot of bosses up until now, it's just like I've been avoiding it, and that again is a weakness. Obviously between the Dragon Slayer armor and this boss there's not too much PvE between, and again I wasn't practicing my rolls, and that's a bad habit. But likewise, people that never use a shield have never got that skill under their belt either when the time comes, so